Ethan Cole's hand froze halfway to his coffee cup. Across the cafe, a woman turned her head, and for one impossible second, the world tilted sideways. Same dark hair falling past her shoulders, same curve of her smile, same way she tucked a strand behind her left ear. His wife had been dead for 3 years. He'd watched them lower her casket into the ground. Yet here sat someone who could be her twin, laughing at something on her phone, completely unaware she'd just shattered a grieving man's carefully rebuilt world. When her eyes lifted and met his, recognition flickered across her face too, and that's when Ethan knew this wasn't coincidence. This was something else entirely. Before we dive into Ethan's impossible journey, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now let's begin. The mug slipped from Ethan's grip, coffee spreading across the table in a dark stain that mirrored the chaos flooding his chest. He barely noticed, couldn't look away. The woman, she couldn't be real, gathered her things, started toward the door, and some animal part of his brain screamed that if she left, he'd spend the rest of his life wondering if he'd imagined her. "Excuse me." His voice came out rough, unfamiliar. He was already standing, already moving before conscious thought caught up. She stopped, turned. Up close, the resemblance was even more devastating. Same green eyes, though hers held a wariness Claire's never had. Different clothes, ripped jeans and a leather jacket instead of Claire's sundresses. But the bones of her face, the arch of her eyebrows, the small scar above her lip. "Can I help you?" Her voice was lower than Claire's. A smoker's rasp, maybe, or just different vocal cords. Different person. Had to be. "I'm sorry." Ethan forced his hands into his pockets so she wouldn't see them shaking. You look like someone I used to know." Something flickered in her expression. "Yeah? Funny. You look familiar too." She tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. "What's your name?" "Ethan. Ethan Cole." The blood drained from her face so fast he thought she might faint. Her bag hit the floor, contents scattering. Wallet, keys, a small leather journal that fell open to reveal cramped handwriting. She didn't seem to notice. "That's impossible," she whispered. "You're supposed to be—" She cut herself off, jaw clenching. "I need to go." "Wait." He caught her arm without thinking, released it immediately when she flinched. "Please, who are you?" "Someone who makes a lot of mistakes." She crouched to gather her belongings, movements jerky. "And talking to you would be another one." "Why?" "Because I've been looking for answers for 2 years, and every time I get close, everything goes to hell." She straightened, clutching her bag against her chest like a shield. "So unless you've got a time machine and a better explanation for why I remember things that never happened to me, we should probably stay strangers." She was at the door before Ethan's paralyzed brain caught up. "What things?" She paused, hand on the frame, shoulders tight. When she looked back, her eyes were wet. A white house with blue shutters. A tire swing in the yard. A man who made terrible pancakes every Sunday and sang off-key to James Taylor. Her voice cracked. And a little girl with dark curls who called me Mama, even though I'm 24 years old and I've never had a kid. The floor seemed to drop away. The White House. The tire swing. Claire's favorite Sunday tradition, and their daughter, Lily, who just turned 6 last month. "Tell me your name," Ethan said quietly. "Aria." She swiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. "Aria Lane, does that mean anything to you?" It didn't. But the way she'd described his life, his actual life, meant everything. "We need to talk," he said. "Really talk. Not here." "I don't think—" "You came looking for answers. I might have them." He pulled out his phone, hand steadier now that shock was giving way to something else. Curiosity. Desperate, aching need. "Or maybe we can find them together." Aria studied him for a long moment, wariness and hope warring on her face. Finally, she exhaled. "One conversation. That's all I'm promising. There's a park 3 blocks from here, the one with the duck pond, where he'd proposed to Claire 8 years ago, but he didn't say that part." "Tomorrow morning? 9 o'clock? "Fine." She adjusted her bag strap. "But if this turns out to be some kind of weird stalker thing, I know people." Despite everything, Ethan almost smiled. Claire had been trusting to a fault. This woman, Aria, had edges. Armor. Noted. She left without another word, and Ethan stood in the cafe doorway watching her disappear down the street until the barista asked if he was okay. He said yes, paid for the spilled coffee and the broken mug, drove home on autopilot, mind spinning through impossible scenarios. By the time he pulled into his driveway, he'd convinced himself he'd imagined the whole thing. Grief did strange things. Maybe he'd seen a random woman who vaguely resembled Claire, and his desperate brain had filled in the rest. Then he walked inside and found Lily at the kitchen table with his mother, sorting through old photo albums. "Daddy!" She launched herself at his legs, all fierce energy and tangled curls. "Grandma's showing me pictures of Mommy when she was little." Ethan's mother, Joan, looked up with a soft smile that always carried an edge of concern these days. She worried. Checked in too often. Treated him like glass that might shatter if handled wrong. "Hope that's okay," she said. Lily asked about Claire's childhood, and I thought, it's fine." Ethan kissed the top of Lily's head, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "What did you learn, Bug?" "That Mommy was bad at soccer," Lily giggled, pointing to a photo of young Claire covered in mud, grinning despite an obvious scraped knee, and that she had a best friend named, what was it, Grandma? Sarah. Joan's expression clouded. They were inseparable until high school. Then Sarah's family moved away and they lost touch. Ethan had heard the story before. Claire had mourned that lost friendship her whole life, said it felt like losing a sister. He'd never met Sarah, never even seen a picture. Claire said her mother had thrown out most photos after some family falling out. "Can we find her?" Lily asked. "Mommy's friend?" "I don't know, sweetheart." Joan closed the album gently. "That was a long time ago." Ethan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. His thumb hovered over the delete button, then opened it instead. "This is Arya, in case you were wondering if you imagined today." "You didn't. See you tomorrow." He stared at the message until Joan asked if everything was all right. "Yeah." He pocketed the phone. "Just work stuff." The lie tasted bitter, but what was he supposed to say? "I met someone who might be a ghost, or might be crazy, or might be the answer to questions I didn't know I had?" After Joan left, Ethan made grilled cheese for dinner, Lily's favorite, and listened to her chatter about school, her best friend Maya, the class hamster who escaped again. Normal, ordinary life, the kind he'd fought so hard to build after Claire died. "Daddy?" Lily paused mid-bite. "Do you think Mommy can see us? From heaven?" The question landed like a punch. Ethan set down his sandwich, choosing words carefully. "I think, if she can, she's probably really proud of you." "What about you? What about me? Is she proud of you too?" Those big dark eyes, Claire's eyes, searched his face with uncomfortable perception. "I hope so, Bug. I think you're sad a lot." Lily pushed cheese around her plate. "Maya's mom says it's okay to be sad, but also okay to be happy sometimes." Maya's mom is right. Ethan reached across the table, squeezed his daughter's small hand. "And I am happy. When I'm with you, I'm very happy." It was true. Mostly true. The kind of partial truth you told a 6-year-old because the whole truth that he felt like he was drowning most days, that he went through the motions because stopping meant falling apart, that he'd carved out his own heart and buried it 3 years ago, was too heavy for small shoulders. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan pulled out the box from the top of his closet. Claire's things. Her wedding ring. Her favorite sweater that still smelled faintly of her perfume. The leather journal where she'd written recipes and random thoughts and terrible poetry she'd made him promise never to read. He'd broken that promise once, right after she died. Needed to hear her voice, even written. Needed proof she'd been real, not just a dream he'd wake up from. Now he flipped through pages at random, stopping when a name caught his eye. "Sometimes I wonder about Sarah. If she thinks about me too. If she remembers the pact we made, sisters forever, no matter what. We were so young, so stupid, so sure nothing could ever break us apart. I hope she's happy, wherever she is. I hope she found what she was looking for." Ethan's throat tightened. He'd read this passage before, but tonight it hit different. Sisters forever. Found what she was looking for. He grabbed his laptop, opened Facebook for the first time in months. Searched Sarah plus Claire's maiden name, her hometown, her high school. Got dozens of results, none that seemed right. He tried variations, different spellings. widened the search. 3 hours later, eyes burning, he found it. A memorial page. Sarah Mitchell died 4 years ago. Car accident in Oregon. Never married, no children. The photo showed a woman in her early 30s smiling at the camera with Claire's same easy warmth. And in the comments, posted 2 years ago, a single message from someone named Aria Lane. She was my mother. Thank you for remembering her. Ethan's hands went numb. He read the words again. 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 Sarah Mitchell, Claire's childhood best friend. Aria's mother. Which meant... He pulled up the photo albums Joan had left on the coffee table, flipped through until he found the picture Lily had pointed out. Young Claire, muddy from soccer, and beside her, arms slung over her shoulders, a girl with dark hair and a familiar smile. Sarah. Ethan held his phone next to the old photo, comparing faces. The resemblance was there, unmistakable. Aria looked like her mother the same way Lily looked like Claire. But that didn't explain the memories. The White House, the tire swing, the Sunday pancakes. Those were his life, his reality, not some story that could have been passed down secondhand. Unless... He opened Claire's journal again, scanned entries more carefully. Most were mundane, grocery lists, work frustrations, funny things Lily said. But every few months there were gaps, days where she'd written nothing, then picked up again with vague references to being tired or stressed or not feeling like myself. Ethan had assumed depression, grief over Sarah's death, the normal struggles of motherhood and marriage. Now he wondered if he'd missed something. His phone buzzed. Another message from Aria. Can't sleep. Keep seeing your face and wondering why you feel like someone I know. Someone I should know. This is crazy, right? He typed back before he could overthink it. If it's crazy, we're both losing it. See you at 9. Bring coffee. I'll bring the impossible questions. Deal. Ethan set the phone down, stared at the ceiling, and tried to reconcile the life he knew with the possibility that he didn't know it at all. Sleep didn't come. When dawn broke, he was still awake, Claire's journal open on his chest, Aria's name circling his thoughts like a prayer or a curse. The park looked different in morning light, softer. The duck pond reflected clouds and trees, surface broken only by a family of mallards cutting lazy patterns through the water. Ethan arrived early, claimed a bench near the path, coffee cooling in his hands. Aria showed up at exactly 9, and somehow he'd still expected her to be a hallucination. But there she was, real, solid, walking toward him with the same wary determination from yesterday. You came, she said. So did you. Yeah, well. She sat down, leaving careful space between them. Curiosity's always been my worst habit. Ethan handed her the second coffee. I found something, last night, about your mother. Her spine went rigid. What about her? She was friends with my wife when they were kids. Best friends, actually. Claire talked about her sometimes, said losing touch was one of her biggest regrets. Aria's hands tightened around the cup. And you're just telling me this now? I didn't know until last night. Claire never mentioned her friend's last name, and I never thought to ask. He pulled out his phone, showed her the memorial page. This is her, right? Your mother? Aria's breath caught. She took the phone with shaking hands, stared at the photo like it might disappear. Yeah, that's her. Her voice went thick. How did Claire die? Cancer, ovarian. By the time they found it, Ethan swallowed hard. She had 6 months. We made them count. Jesus. Aria swiped at her eyes. I'm sorry. Don't be. I mean, thank you, but that's not... He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. That's not why I wanted to talk. Then why? Because you describe my house, my daughter, my life, and the only person who could have told you those things is dead. He met her eyes. So either you're some kind of psychic, or there's something else going on, something neither of us understands. Aria set the coffee down, hugged her arms around herself. I don't remember my childhood. Not really. Mom said I had an accident when I was 4. Fell downstairs, hit my head. Spent weeks in the hospital. When I came home, whole chunks were just gone. She said that was normal, that they'd come back eventually. Did they? No. But about 2 years ago, after she died, I started having dreams, vivid ones, places I'd never been, people I didn't know. And then I'd be walking down the street, and something would trigger this overwhelming feeling of déjà vu. Like I'd lived that moment before. Ethan's chest tightened. What kind of triggers? Stupid things. A song on the radio, the smell of pancakes. Once I saw a little girl on a swing, and I just broke down crying in the middle of Target. She laughed bitterly. Therapist said it was delayed grief. Unprocessed trauma. Put me on pills that made everything fuzzy. You stopped taking them. Yeah, because fuzzy meant I couldn't think, and thinking was the only thing that felt real anymore. She pulled out the leather journal he'd seen yesterday, handed it to him. I started writing everything down, the dreams, the feelings, the fragments, trying to make sense of it. Ethan opened the journal carefully. The first entry was dated 2 years ago, just after Sarah's death. Dreamed about a White House again, same one from last week. There's a man there, tall, kind eyes, terrible at cooking. A little girl with dark hair. They feel like family, they feel like mine, but I've never seen them before in my life. He flipped forward. More entries, more details. Descriptions of rooms in his house, furniture he owned, arguments he'd had with Claire about repainting the bedroom. Things no one could know unless they'd been there. This is impossible, he whispered. Tell me about it. Arya pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them. I thought I was losing my mind. Then I found an old photo in Mom's things, her and another girl, maybe 10 years old. Happy, normal. And on the back, in Mom's handwriting, me and Claire, summer 1998, sisters forever. You tracked down Claire. Tried to. Found her obituary first, then found you. She hesitated. I wasn't planning to make contact, just wanted to see if you were real, if the house was real, prove to myself I wasn't crazy. But then you walked into that cafe and looked at me like you'd seen a ghost, and I freaked out. Wouldn't you? Ethan handed back the journal. My daughter asked me last night if Claire could see us from heaven. I told her yes, but honestly, I don't know what I believe anymore. They sat in silence, watching the ducks. A jogger passed. A woman with a stroller. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that two strangers on a bench were trying to reconcile the impossible. What do you want? Arya asked finally. From this. From me. The truth. Ethan turned to face her. Whatever that is, even if it's messy or complicated or doesn't make sense. And if the truth makes everything worse, then at least we'll know. Arya studied him, something shifting in her expression. You really loved her, your wife. Yeah, I did. And you think I'm what? Her reincarnation? Some cosmic second chance? I think you're someone who deserves answers. Ethan's throat tightened. And maybe I do too. A child's laugh cut through the moment, high and bright and achingly familiar. They both turned. Across the pond, a little girl was feeding bread to the ducks, dark curls bouncing as she jumped and pointed. Lily, with Joan, who must have brought her to the park after breakfast. Standard grandma routine. That's her, Ethan said quietly. My daughter. Arya went very still, her hands clenched in her lap, knuckles white. The one from my dreams. Lily, she's 6. She's beautiful, Arya's voice cracked. And I shouldn't know that she's scared of thunderstorms but loves the sound of rain on the roof, or that her favorite color is purple even though she tells everyone it's pink because that's what girls are supposed to like, or that she sleeps with a stuffed elephant named Mr. Trunk, who's missing one ear because the dog got to it. Ethan's blood went cold. How do you know about Mr. Trunk? I don't know. Arya stood abruptly, pacing. I don't know how I know any of this. It's just there in my head, like memories that belong to someone else. She spun to face him. Do you know how terrifying that is? To have a whole life in your head that isn't yours? Across the pond, Lily looked up, saw Ethan, waved enthusiastically, and then she saw Arya. The joy drained from her face. She went pale, still, staring with an expression Ethan had never seen on his daughter. Recognition mixed with confusion, mixed with something that looked almost like grief. Mommy? The word carried across the water, small and broken. Joan followed Lily's gaze, stiffened. Even from this distance, Ethan could see the shock on his mother's face. I need to go. Arya grabbed her bag. This was a mistake. Wait. No. She backed away, shaking her head. I can't. She thinks I'm not her mother, Ethan. I'm nobody. You're not nobody. Look at her. Arya's voice broke. She's crying because I'm not the person she wants me to be. How is that fair? How is any of this fair? Lily started running toward them, Joan calling after her. The little girl's face was streaked with tears, confusion, and hope warring in her eyes. Please, Ethan said. Just stay. Just for a minute. But Arya was already gone, disappearing into the tree line, leaving Ethan to catch his daughter as she crashed into his arms, sobbing. Was that Mommy? Daddy? Was that Mommy? No, Bug, that was... He had no idea how to finish that sentence. That was someone else. But she looked just like her. Lily's fingers twisted in his shirt. Why did she look just like her? Joan reached them, breathing hard, face pale. Ethan, who was that? I don't know, he lied, because the truth was too complicated and he was too tired to explain. Well, she needs to stay away from Lily. Joan's protective instinct kicked in sharp and fierce. You can't just let some random woman... She's not random. The words came out harder than intended. And this isn't your business, Mom. Hurt flashed across Joan's face. My granddaughter is crying because some stranger looks like her dead mother. That makes it my business. Ethan closed his eyes, counted to 5, reminded himself that Joan was grieving too, had lost her daughter-in-law and watched her son fall apart, and was doing her best to hold everyone together. You're right, he said quietly. I'm sorry, this is complicated. Then uncomplicate it. Joan's voice softened. For Lily's sake. But as Ethan carried his still-crying daughter back to the car, he knew there was no uncomplicated version of this story. Only questions that multiplied with every answer, and a woman who haunted his thoughts like a ghost made flesh. That night, after Lily finally cried herself to sleep, Ethan sat in the dark living room and opened Arya's last message. I'm sorry. For everything. Tell your daughter I'm sorry too. He typed back, this isn't over. It has to be. Why? The response took 5 minutes. Because I can't be what she needs. What you need. I'm just a girl with scrambled memories and a dead mother and no good explanation for any of this. So we find one. Together. You don't even know me. Then let me. Another long pause. Then, why do you care? Ethan stared at the question, weighing honesty against self-preservation. Finally typed, because for the first time in 3 years, I feel something other than numb. And maybe that makes me selfish, but I'm not ready to let that go. The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. One more conversation, that's all. And if we don't find answers, I walk away and you never contact me again. Deal. Same park. Tomorrow night, after Lily's in bed. 9 p.m. I'll be there. Ethan set the phone down and let himself imagine, just for a moment, that impossible things might sometimes be true. The park at night was a different animal entirely. Shadows pooled beneath the trees, and the duck pond reflected streetlights in fractured gold. Ethan arrived 15 minutes early, nerves strung tight as piano wire. He'd spent the whole day second-guessing this meeting, arguing with himself about whether he was helping Lily or hurting her, whether chasing answers was brave or just another way to avoid moving forward. Joan had asked too many questions when she picked Lily up that afternoon. Wanted to know who the woman at the park was, why Lily kept asking about her, whether Ethan was seeing someone, and if so, didn't he think it was too soon? He'd shut her down harder than he meant to, felt guilty about it for hours after. Now he sat on the same bench from yesterday morning and waited. Arya appeared at 9:03, hands shoved in her jacket pockets, eyes scanning the darkness like she expected trouble. When she spotted him, something in her shoulders loosened just slightly. You actually came, she said, sitting down with more space between them than before. Said I would. Yeah, well, people say a lot of things. She pulled out a cigarette, then seemed to think better of it and put it back. I spent all day trying to talk myself out of this. What changed your mind? Honestly, I don't know. She looked at him then, really looked, and Ethan felt the weight of it. Maybe I'm tired of running from things that scare me, or maybe I'm just a masochist. Could be both. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. Could be. They sat quiet for a moment, listening to the night sounds. Crickets, distant traffic, the soft lap of water against the pond's edge. I did some digging, Arya said finally. After I left yesterday, called my aunt, Mom's sister, asked her about Claire. Ethan's pulse quickened. What did she say? That Mom and Claire were practically joined at the hip until they were 14. Sleepovers every weekend, matching friendship bracelets, the whole 9 yards. Then Claire's family moved across town, different school district, and they drifted. She picked at a loose thread on her jeans. But here's the weird part. My aunt said Mom got pregnant at 16, had a baby she gave up for adoption. The words hung in the air like smoke. You think... Ethan couldn't finish the sentence. I think I was that baby. Arya's voice went flat, clinical. The timeline fits. Mom would have been 16 in 2002. I was born in November that year. She told me my dad was some random guy who bailed, that she kept me even though everyone said she shouldn't. But what if that was the story she needed to believe? Why would she lie? Because admitting you gave up your first kid and then came back for her 4 years later sounds insane? Arya laughed, but there was no humor in it. My aunt said Mom had a breakdown when I was little. Severe postpartum depression, that's what they called it. But I was 4 years old. You don't get postpartum depression 4 years after birth. Ethan's mind raced, connecting dots he didn't want to connect. The accident you mentioned. When you hit your head. Yeah, what if it wasn't an accident? Arya's jaw tightened. Don't. I'm not trying to... Yes, you are. She stood abruptly, paced to the pond's edge. You're trying to make this into some tragic story where my mom was so mentally ill she hurt her own kid. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but either way she's dead and I can't ask her. Ethan joined her at the water, kept his voice gentle. I'm not trying to vilify her. I'm trying to understand why you have memories that aren't yours. What if they are mine? Arya turned to face him, eyes bright with unshed tears. What if I didn't hit my head? What if something else happened? Something that made me forget who I was, where I came from, everything before age 4. Like what? I don't know, trauma, maybe. Some kind of dissociative thing. She wrapped her arms around herself. Or maybe I'm just crazy and none of this means anything. You're not crazy. You don't know that. I know you described my house in perfect detail. I know my daughter recognized you even though you've never met. Ethan stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. And I know that whatever's happening here, it's bigger than grief or coincidence. Arya stared at him, something shifting behind her eyes. You really believe that? That there's some kind of, what, cosmic explanation? I believe there are things we don't understand, and I believe you deserve to know the truth about where you came from. He paused. Even if it's painful. She looked away, blinking hard. My whole life has been painful. I'm used to it. That's a shitty way to live. Yeah, well, it's the hand I got dealt. They stood in silence, the night pressing close. Finally, Arya spoke again, quieter. Tell me about Claire. Not the saint version people tell at funerals. The real person. Ethan exhaled slowly. She was stubborn, terrible with money, burnt every meal she tried to cook that wasn't breakfast food. The memories came easier than expected. She cried at dog food commercials and never remembered to check the oil in her car. Sang along to the radio even though she was tone deaf. Made these elaborate plans for weekend trips and then canceled them because she was too tired. Sounds human. She was. Very human. His throat tightened, and she loved Lily more than anything, would have done anything for her. Even let her go? The question caught him off guard. What? If she'd had to choose between keeping Lily safe and keeping her close, what would she have picked? Ethan thought about that. About Claire's fierce protectiveness, the way she'd obsess over car seat safety and baby-proofing corners and making sure Lily never felt abandoned or unloved. She would have kept her safe, he said, no matter what it cost. Arya nodded slowly, like he'd confirmed something she already suspected. My mom was the same way. When I was growing up, she was paranoid about everything. Strangers, traffic, other kids at the playground. Kept us moving every couple years, new apartments, new cities. Said she wanted me to see the world, but I think she was just running. From what? I don't know, she never said. Arya's hands twisted together. But when she got sick, the cancer that killed her, she made me promise something. She grabbed my hand and she looked me right in the eye and said, "Don't go looking for ghosts. Let the past stay buried."
But you didn't listen. How could I? Her voice rose, frustrated. How could I just ignore all these pieces that don't fit? The dreams, the memories, the feeling that I'm living someone else's life?
Maybe because she was trying to protect you. From what? The truth? Sometimes the truth is the most dangerous thing there is. Arya laughed bitterly, spoken like someone who's hiding from it. That landed hard. Ethan opened his mouth to argue, then realized she was right. He'd spent 3 years carefully constructing a life that didn't require him to feel too much, or want too much, or risk too much. Safe, controlled, half alive. Fair point, he admitted. So what do we do? Arya asked. Keep meeting in parks and trading theories like conspiracy nuts? We could start with the basics. Paper trail? Your adoption records if they exist. Birth certificate. Hospital records from when you were 4. Already tried. Everything's sealed or missing. It's like my life before age 4 doesn't exist. What about Claire's family? Her parents might know something. Arya hesitated. Are they still alive? Yeah, living in Arizona. We don't talk much. Ethan pulled out his phone, scrolled through contacts he hadn't looked at in months. Claire's mom and I had a falling out after the funeral. She blamed me for not catching the cancer sooner, for not making Claire go to the doctor when she first started feeling sick. Said I should have known something was wrong. That's not fair. No. But grief makes people cruel. He stared at his mother-in-law's contact info. I could call her, ask about Sarah, about whether Claire ever mentioned anything unusual. She'll want to know why you're asking. I'll figure something out. Arya studied him, and he could see her weighing trust against self-preservation. Finally, she pulled out her phone, too. If we're doing this, we do it right. No more half measures. She opened her notes app, started typing. We need a list. Everything we know, everything we don't know, everything that doesn't add up. They spent the next hour comparing notes. Ethan talked about Claire's friendship with Sarah, the abrupt end, Claire's lifelong regret. Arya shared fragments from her journal, dreams about a tire swing, a yellow kitchen, arguments about paint colors. They found overlap in strange places. A song Claire used to hum that Arya had been singing for years without knowing why. A specific brand of coffee that made them both think of Sunday mornings. This is insane, Arya said eventually, staring at the list they'd built. None of this proves anything. It proves we're connected somehow. You, me, Claire, your mom. There's a thread here. Threads break, not if you're careful. She met his eyes, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or just the shared exhaustion of carrying questions too heavy for one person. I should go, Arya said, but she didn't move. Yeah. Same time tomorrow? Ethan knew he should say no. Should protect Lily, protect himself, stop chasing ghosts. But when he opened his mouth, different words came out. There's something you should know about Lily. Arya went still. What about her? She won't stop asking about you. Keep saying you look like her mom, but different, younger, sadder. He ran a hand through his hair. My mother thinks I should keep you away from her. Maybe she's right. She is right. Arya's voice went tight. I'm a stranger who looks like her dead mother. That's trauma waiting to happen. Or maybe it's a chance for her to understand that people we love don't really leave. They show up in unexpected ways. That's a pretty thought. Doesn't make it true. What if I let you meet her? The words came out before Ethan fully processed them. Properly. Not some accident at the park. A real introduction. Arya stepped back like he'd slapped her. Are you insane? Probably. I could be anyone. I could be dangerous. Are you? That's not the point. Then what is? The point is your daughter is 6 years old and grieving, and I am not equipped to be part of that. Arya's voice cracked. I can barely handle my own mess. I can't take on hers too. I'm not asking you to fix anything. I'm asking you to help me find answers. And if that means Lily meets you, if that helps her understand that the world is complicated and people can look like other people without being them, then maybe that's not the worst thing. Or maybe it breaks her heart all over again. Maybe. Ethan held her gaze. But hiding you away, pretending you don't exist, that feels like lying. And I promised myself after Claire died that I'd never lie to Lily about the hard stuff. Arya was quiet for a long time, arms wrapped tight around herself. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. What if she hates me? She won't. You don't know that. No, but I know she's braver than both of us. And if we're honest with her, if we explain that you're trying to understand your past and it connects to her mom somehow, she'll get it. Kids are better at accepting strange things than adults. Arya laughed shakily. This is a terrible idea. Probably. When? Saturday. Lunch at my place. Casual. No pressure. No pressure. Right. She looked at him like he'd grown a second head. You're really serious about this? I am. Why? It was the same question she'd asked before, and Ethan still didn't have a clean answer. Just pieces of truth that felt too raw to say out loud. That he was tired of being careful. That Arya's presence made him feel something other than the gray numbness he'd lived in for 3 years. That maybe helping her find her past could help him figure out his future. Because you deserve answers, he said finally, and because I think Claire would want me to help you. Arya's eyes went bright. You didn't know me. She didn't know me. She knew your mom. And from everything you've told me, Sarah sacrificed a lot to keep you safe. Maybe this is how we honor that. Or maybe we're both just desperate for something to make sense. Could be that too. They stood in the darkness, the pond still and quiet behind them. Finally, Arya nodded. Saturday, 1 o'clock. I'll bring dessert. You don't have to. I'm bringing dessert. If I'm going to traumatize your kid, the least I can do is bribe her with sugar. Despite everything, Ethan smiled. Deal. Arya turned to leave, then paused. Ethan, thank you for not treating me like I'm crazy. Thank you for giving me a reason to stop sleepwalking through my life. She didn't respond, just lifted her hand in a small wave and walked into the darkness. Ethan stayed by the pond a while longer, trying to convince himself he hadn't just made a huge mistake. His phone buzzed. Joan. Lily had nightmares tonight, kept asking about the woman from the park. We need to talk. He typed back. Tomorrow. I'll explain everything. You better. I'm worried about you, I know. I'm sorry. He pocketed the phone and started the walk back to his car, mind already spinning through how he'd explain this to his mother, to Lily, to himself. The next 2 days crawled by. Ethan worked from home, fielding client calls and trying to focus on spreadsheets while his thoughts kept drifting to Saturday. To what he'd say, how he'd introduce Arya, whether this would help or hurt. Lily was clingy in the way she got when something was bothering her. Wanted him to read extra bedtime stories, asked him to check for monsters under the bed, even though she'd outgrown that months ago. Wednesday night, she finally brought it up. Daddy, are we going to see that lady again? Ethan set down the book he'd been reading. What lady, Bug? The one from the park. The one who looks like Mommy but isn't. He chose his words carefully. Her name is Arya, and actually, she's going to come visit us this weekend. Lily's eyes went wide. Really? Really? She's trying to learn about her family, and it turns out her mom knew your mom when they were little, so we're going to help her. Is she nice? I think so. You can decide for yourself when you meet her. Lily processed this, brow furrowed in concentration. Will it make you sad if she looks like Mommy? The question gutted him. 6 years old and already trying to protect his feelings. Maybe a little, Ethan admitted. But that's okay. Being sad sometimes is normal. Maya's mom says missing people is how we remember we loved them. Maya's mom is very smart. Lily snuggled closer. I miss Mommy a lot. Me too, Bug. Me too. Thursday, Joan showed up unannounced, cornered him in the kitchen while Lily played in the backyard. Talk, she demanded. Now. So he did. Told her about Arya, about Sarah, about the strange connections that didn't add up. Left out the parts about Arya's memories. That felt too fragile to share. Joan listened with increasing alarm. This girl could be anyone, Ethan. You don't know her. I'm being careful. Are you? Because inviting a stranger into your home around your daughter doesn't sound careful. It sounds desperate. The accusation stung because it was partially true. I'm trying to help someone who needs it, he said evenly, and I'm trying to find answers to questions I didn't know I had. That's not desperate. That's being human. It's been 3 years. You're allowed to move on, date, meet someone. But this? Joan gestured helplessly. This is playing with fire. Then I guess I'll get burned. She softened slightly. I'm not trying to control your life. I'm trying to keep you from getting hurt again. I know, but I can't live in a bubble forever, Mom. Neither can Lily. Joan sighed, the fight draining out of her. Just promise me you'll be smart about this, for Lily's sake. I promise. Friday evening, Ethan cleaned the house with manic energy. Vacuumed rugs that didn't need vacuuming, scrubbed counters that were already clean. Lily watched with amusement. You're being weird, Daddy. I'm being prepared. For what? For tomorrow, when Arya visits. Are you nervous? Maybe a little. Lily considered this. Maya gets nervous before her dance recitals. Her mom says to just breathe and remember everyone's human. That's good advice.
Except Mr. Whiskers, he's a cat. Ethan laughed despite himself, pulled his daughter into a hug. What would I do without you, Bug?
Be really messy and eat cereal for every meal. Probably true. That night he lay awake, running through scenarios. What if Arya didn't show? What if she showed and Lily freaked out? What if Joan was right and this was a terrible idea? At 12:47 a.m., his phone buzzed. Still awake? Arya. Yeah. You? Can't sleep. Keep thinking about tomorrow. Second thoughts? Third and fourth thoughts. But I'm still coming. Good. A pause, then. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I make her cry? Then we handle it. Together. You have a lot of faith in me for someone who barely knows me. Maybe that's why it's easier. Another pause. See you tomorrow, Ethan. See you tomorrow. He set the phone down and finally, mercifully, fell asleep. Saturday morning arrived bright and cold. Lily insisted on wearing her purple dress, the fancy one she saved for special occasions. Ethan didn't have the heart to tell her this wasn't that kind of special. Do I look okay? She asked, spinning in front of the mirror. You look perfect. What if she doesn't like me? Impossible. You're the most likable person I know. Lily grinned, then went serious again. Daddy, is it okay if I like her even though she's not Mommy? Ethan knelt down to her level. Bug, you can like whoever you want. Mommy would want you to be happy, and if Arya makes you happy, that's a good thing. What if it makes you sad? Then I'll handle it. That's not your job, okay? Your job is just to be yourself. She hugged him tight, and he held on maybe longer than necessary. At 12:58, the doorbell rang. Ethan's heart kicked into overdrive. Lily grabbed his hand, suddenly shy. He opened the door. Arya stood on the porch, holding a bakery box, dressed in jeans and a sweater that looked carefully chosen to be casual but not sloppy. Her hair was pulled back, minimal makeup, and she looked terrified. Hi, she said. Hi. They stared at each other for a beat too long. Then Lily tugged on Ethan's sleeve. Can she come in, or are we just going to stand here? Arya laughed, surprised and genuine. You must be Lily. You're Arya. Lily stepped forward, studying her with unnerving intensity. You look like my mom's pictures, but your eyes are different. Yeah? Arya crouched down to Lily's height. How are they different? Hers were happy, yours are sad. Silence. Ethan opened his mouth to redirect, but Arya spoke first. You're right. I am sad sometimes, but I'm trying to get better. Lily nodded solemnly. Me too. Daddy says it's okay to be sad and happy at the same time. Your daddy's a smart guy. He makes terrible pancakes, though. Arya's breath caught. Does he? The worst. They're always burnt on one side and soggy on the other. Something shifted in Arya's expression. Recognition, maybe, or memory. She glanced up at Ethan, and he saw the question in her eyes. He gave a tiny nod. Well, Arya said, standing up. I brought brownies. Does that make up for bad pancakes? Lily's eyes lit up. Can I see? They moved into the kitchen, and Ethan watched Arya take in the space. Saw her gaze linger on the yellow walls, the window over the sink, the table where they ate every meal. Saw the moment she recognized it. Nice place, she said quietly. Thanks. It was Claire's dream house. Took us 2 years to save up for the down payment. The tire swing out back. That's new? Ethan's pulse jumped. 3 years old, how did you... Lucky guess. But it wasn't, and they both knew it. Lunch was surprisingly easy. Lily chattered about school, her friends, the class hamster's latest escape. Arya asked questions, laughed in the right places, shared bits of her own childhood that felt carefully edited. They found common ground in their love of chocolate and hatred of broccoli. Halfway through, Lily asked the question Ethan had been dreading. "Did you know my mommy when she was little?" Arya set down her fork. "No, but my mom did. They were best friends." "What was your mom like?" "She was complicated, strong but scared. She loved me a lot, but I think she was always worried something bad would happen." "Like what?" "I don't know. She never said." Lily thought about this. "My mommy got sick. That was bad, but Daddy says she's not hurting anymore." "I'm sorry you lost her." Arya's voice went thick. "That must be really hard." It was. It still is sometimes. Lily pushed food around her plate. "But Daddy says we have to keep living even when it's hard, because that's what Mommy would want." "Your daddy's right about a lot of things." After lunch, Lily dragged Arya outside to see Mr. Whiskers. The cat, not the stuffed elephant. Ethan watched from the kitchen window as his daughter showed Arya the garden, the swing, the treehouse he'd built last summer. Watched Arya kneel in the grass and let Lily tell her stories, patient and present in a way that made his chest ache. His phone buzzed. "Joan, how's it going?" "Better than expected." "That's good. Call me later?" "Will do." When they came back inside, Lily was flushed and happy, and Arya looked lighter somehow, less guarded. "Can Arya come back?" Lily asked. "Please?" Ethan looked at Arya, left the choice to her. She hesitated, then nodded. "If your dad says it's okay." "It's okay," Ethan said. They said goodbye on the porch. Lily hugged Arya, quick and impulsive, then ran back inside to give them privacy. "That went better than I expected," Arya admitted. "She likes you." "I like her too. She's..." Arya trailed off, blinking hard. "She's exactly how I imagined." "You imagined her?" "In the dreams. She was always just out of reach, but I could hear her laughing, feel her hugging me." Arya's voice broke. "And today, when she actually hugged me, it felt like coming home." Ethan stepped closer. "Arya, I should go." She backed toward her car. "Before I say something I can't take back." "What would you say?" She looked at him for a long moment, emotions warring on her face. Finally, she shook her head. "Ask me again when we figure out what the hell is going on." She drove away, and Ethan stood on the porch until her car disappeared. When he went back inside, Lily was waiting. "I like her, Daddy. Can we help her find her answers?" "Yeah, Bug. We can try." That night, Ethan sat at his desk and finally called Claire's mother. The phone rang 4 times before she answered. "Ethan," her voice was cold. "This is unexpected." "Hi, Margaret. I know we haven't talked in a while." 3 years. "I'm sorry about that. I've been..." He trailed off. What could he say? "I've been trying to keep my head above water." A long silence, then softer. "How's Lily?" "Good. Growing. She asks about you sometimes." "Does she?" Not a question. "Margaret, I need to ask you something about Claire, about her childhood friend Sarah." Another silence, heavier this time. "Why?" "Sarah's daughter contacted me. She's trying to learn about her mother, and I thought you might remember something from when Sarah and Claire were close." "Sarah Mitchell?" Margaret's voice sharpened. "That girl was trouble. I was relieved when they stopped being friends." "Why was she trouble?" "Wild, reckless, got pregnant in high school for heaven's sake. Claire was too trusting. I always worried Sarah would drag her down." "Did Claire ever mention what happened to Sarah after they lost touch?" "No, and I didn't ask. Some people are better left in the past." Frustration built in Ethan's chest. "Margaret, this is important. Sarah's daughter is looking for answers about her childhood, and there are connections to Claire that I don't understand. If you know anything, I know Claire is dead." Her voice went icy. "And I know you're wasting time chasing ghosts instead of moving on. That's what I know." "This isn't about moving on. It's about you feeling guilty and looking for absolution in all the wrong places." The line went quiet, except for her breathing.
Claire loved you. She would want you to be happy, not stuck in the past. I'm not stuck. Then why are you calling me about ancient history? Ethan closed his eyes. Because sometimes the past holds answers we need for the future. The only answer you need is that Claire is gone and she's not coming back. Everything else is just noise. She hung up before he could respond. Ethan sat in the silence, phone still pressed to his ear, and wondered if Margaret was right. If he was chasing ghosts, making connections that didn't exist because he couldn't accept that sometimes there were no answers. No neat explanations, just loss and randomness and the slow work of rebuilding. His phone buzzed. Arya. How did it go with Claire's mom? About as well as expected. She doesn't want to talk about Sarah. Figures. Nobody wants to talk about the uncomfortable stuff. Did you have any luck with your aunt? She's dodging my calls. I think I freaked her out with all the questions. They texted back and forth for the next hour, trading dead ends and theories. Eventually, Arya sent, I've been thinking, what if we're asking the wrong questions? What do you mean?
Everyone's focused on Sarah and Claire's friendship, but what if the real connection is me? What if I'm the missing piece? How? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Arya, don't do anything dangerous. Define dangerous. Breaking into hospitals, confronting people who might have hurt you, anything that puts you at risk. So basically my whole life. I'm serious. So am I. This is my past, Ethan. I need to know. Then let me help. We'll figure it out together. A long pause, then, okay, together. Promise? Promise. Ethan set the phone down and tried to ignore the voice in his head that said this was spinning out of control, that he was getting in too deep, that caring about Arya was a complication neither of them needed. But when he checked on Lily before bed and saw her sleeping peacefully for the first time in days, he thought maybe complications weren't always bad. Maybe sometimes they were just life asking you to show up and be brave. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. 3 days later, Arya called at 2 a.m. Ethan fumbled for his phone in the dark, heart already racing. What's wrong? I found something. Her voice was breathless, manic. I've been going through Mom's stuff, boxes I never unpacked after she died. There's a folder, medical records, but they're not hers. They're mine. Ethan sat up, fully awake now. What kind of records? Hospital admission from June 2006. I would have been 3.5. Diagnosis says severe head trauma, possible abuse. She was talking fast, words tumbling over each other. There's a social worker's note. Says Mom claimed I fell downstairs, but the injuries didn't match. They opened an investigation. Arya, slow down. They interviewed her 4 times. 4. The notes say she kept changing her story. First I fell, then I wandered into traffic and got hit, then some stranger pushed me at a playground. Paper rustled on her end. The investigator recommended removing me from her custody, but then there's this gap, 3 weeks of nothing, and when the file picks up again, case closed. Insufficient evidence. I go home with Mom and we move to a different state within the month. Ethan's mind raced. What happened in those 3 weeks? I don't know, but there's a phone number here, written in the margin, no name, just 10 digits. She paused. I'm going to call it. Now? It's the middle of the night. I can't wait. I've been waiting my whole life. Then wait until morning, please. If someone answers, you want them coherent enough to give you real answers. Silence. He could hear her breathing, could picture her pacing whatever room she was in. Fine, morning, but I'm calling at 7 whether you're there or not. I'll be there. Text me your address. Ethan, you said we'd do this together. I meant it. Another pause. Okay, but bring coffee, strong. He showed up at 6:45 with 2 large dark roasts and a bag of donuts. Arya answered the door in yesterday's clothes, eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep or crying or both. Her apartment was small, cluttered with moving boxes that clearly hadn't been unpacked in years. The walls were bare except for a single photo, young Sarah, smiling at the camera with Arya as a toddler on her hip. You look like hell, Ethan said, right back at you. But she took the coffee gratefully, drank half in one go. Thanks for coming. Where's the file? She gestured to the kitchen table, covered in papers, medical records, social worker notes, photographs of a small child with a bandaged head and vacant eyes. Ethan's stomach turned. That's me, Arya said flatly. Age 3. 2 days after whatever happened. The photo showed a little girl who looked nothing like the woman standing beside him. This child was broken, hollow. Ethan picked up the social worker's report, read the investigator's observations. Mother evasive, story inconsistent, child nonverbal and unresponsive to questioning. Bruising pattern suggests possible assault rather than accidental fall. They thought she hurt you. Yeah, Arya's voice cracked. And maybe she did. Maybe that's the truth I've been running from. Or maybe she was protecting you from whoever did. How do you figure that? Because she ran. Took you and disappeared the second that case closed. That's not what guilty people do. That's what scared people do. Arya stared at the papers, jaw working. The phone number. We should try it. It was 702. Ethan pulled out his phone, dialed the number on speaker. It rang once, twice, 4 times. He was about to hang up when someone answered. Yes? A woman's voice. Older, cautious. Arya froze. Ethan gestured for her to speak. Hi, my name is Arya Lane. I found this number in my mother's files and I'm trying to... Sarah's daughter. Not a question. The woman's voice went cold. I wondered if you'd ever call. Who is this? Someone who made a mistake 20 years ago. And I'm not interested in reopening old wounds. Please, I just need to understand what happened to me. I have hospital records from 2006, and there's gaps, and my mother's dead, so I can't ask her, and your mother did what she had to do. The woman cut her off. She made her choice. You should respect it. What choice? What are you talking about? A long silence. Then, you really don't remember? Remember what? The Mitchells? The deal? What your mother gave up to keep you safe? Arya's hand shook. Ethan steadied it, covered her fingers with his. I don't know what any of that means, Arya said. Please, I need to know. No, honey, you need to let sleeping dogs lie. The woman's voice softened slightly. Sarah loved you. Everything she did because she loved you. That's all you need to know. It's not enough. It's going to have to be. The line went dead. Arya stared at the phone, then hurled it across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. She followed it with the coffee cup, then the stack of papers, then anything within reach. Ethan didn't try to stop her, just stood back and let her rage until she collapsed on the floor, sobbing. He sat beside her, didn't touch, didn't speak, just waited. I'm so tired, she finally whispered. Tired of not knowing, tired of feeling like I'm missing half my life. I know. Do you? Because you had a whole complete life with Claire. You know where you came from, who you are. I'm just... She gestured helplessly. I'm just pieces. Then we'll put them together, one at a time. She looked at him, mascara smeared, defenses stripped away. Why do you care so much? Really? Ethan thought about lying, giving her some noble reason about helping people or honoring Claire's memory. But sitting on the floor of her destroyed apartment at 7 a.m, he found he didn't have the energy for anything but honesty. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to want something, to feel something. I've been numb for 3 years, and you're the first person who's made me feel like maybe that's not permanent. That's a lot of pressure to put on a stranger. You're not a stranger anymore. Arya laughed wetly. What are we then? I don't know, but I'd like to find out. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but first we need to figure out who the Mitchells are. They spent the next hour cleaning up the mess, then diving back into Sarah's papers with renewed focus. The Mitchells. The deal. What had Sarah given up? Wait! Arya pulled out an old envelope yellowed with age. This was in the same box as the medical files. I didn't think it was important, but inside was a letter dated July 2006. The handwriting was shaky, rushed. Sarah, I can't keep doing this. The lies are eating me alive. You need to tell her the truth before someone else does. She deserves to know where she came from, who she really is. The Mitchells are asking questions, getting suspicious. If they find out what we did, what you did, they'll take her. And this time there won't be anything I can do to stop them. Please, for both your sakes, tell her. See, Arya's hand shook. See Claire? Ethan grabbed the letter, read it again. The handwriting was familiar. He'd seen it in Claire's journals, on old shopping lists, birthday cards. This was her writing, no question.
Claire knew, he said slowly, about whatever happened to you, about the Mitchells. She was involved somehow. But how? She and Mom lost touch when they were 14. This letter is from when I was 3. Maybe they reconnected. Maybe when you were born, or when... He stopped, pieces clicking together in his head. The adoption your aunt mentioned. What if it wasn't a stranger adoption? What if Claire's family adopted you? Arya went pale. That's insane. Is it? Think about it. Sarah gets pregnant at 16, gives up the baby. Claire's family, the Mitchells, adopt her. Everything's fine for a few years, then something happens. Something bad enough that Sarah takes you back, runs, changes her whole life to keep you hidden. But why would Claire's family give me back? That doesn't make sense. Unless Sarah didn't ask permission. Ethan's pulse raced. Unless she stole you. The words hung in the air like smoke. Arya stood abruptly, paced to the window. If that's true, she said quietly, then I'm not who I think I am. My whole life is built on a lie. Or it's built on a mother who loved you enough to risk everything. You don't know that. You're guessing. Then let's find proof. Ethan pulled out his phone. Margaret, Claire's mom, her maiden name is Mitchell. If she and her husband adopted you in 2002, there'll be records. Sealed adoption records. There are ways around that. Private investigators, court orders, DNA tests. Arya turned to face him. DNA tests? If you were adopted by Claire's parents, you might share DNA with Claire, with Lily. I don't have Claire's DNA. No, but I have something better. He met her eyes. I have Lily. Understanding dawned on Arya's face. You want me to take a DNA test with your daughter? Only if you're comfortable. It's not definitive. You could share DNA without being sisters, or be sisters and not share enough to prove it. But it's a starting point. What will you tell Lily? The truth, that we're trying to understand your family history, and this might help. Arya was quiet for a long time. Finally, she nodded. Okay, let's do it. They ordered a DNA test kit online, paid extra for rush shipping. 2 days. Then they'd know, or at least know more than they did now. In the meantime, Ethan reached out to a private investigator his firm used for background checks. Gave him the basics. Sarah Mitchell, born 1986, pregnant at 16, possible adoption through the Mitchell family. The investigator promised to dig, said he'd have preliminary findings within a week. Arya came to dinner that night. Lily was thrilled, talked her ear off about school, and showed her the drawing she'd made. A stick figure family with 4 people instead of 2. When Ethan asked who the extra people were, Lily pointed. That's you, that's me, that's Arya, and that's Mommy watching from the clouds. Arya's eyes went bright. She excused herself to the bathroom, came back 10 minutes later with red eyes and a shaky smile. After Lily went to bed, they sat on the porch with tea neither of them drank. She's putting me in her family, Arya said. Already, like it's that simple. For her it is. Kids don't overthink the way we do. What if the DNA test proves we're not related? What if this whole theory is wrong and I'm just some random girl who happens to look like your dead wife? Then we deal with it. But Arya, he turned to face her. Even if you're not biologically connected to Claire, you're still part of this. Part of us. Lily's already decided. And you? Me what? Have you decided? Or am I just a puzzle you're trying to solve? The question landed hard. Ethan set down his tea, chose his words carefully. At first, maybe you were. A mystery. Something to focus on that wasn't grief. He met her eyes. But somewhere along the way, that changed. You stopped being a puzzle and started being a person I actually care about. Someone I want to know, not just understand. That's a dangerous line to cross. I'm aware. I'm a mess, Ethan. I've got a decade of therapy ahead of me just to unpack the stuff we've uncovered in the last 2 weeks. Join the club. I've been in therapy since Claire died, and I'm still barely functional most days. Arya laughed despite herself. We're a pair, aren't we? The worst. They sat in comfortable silence, the night settling around them. Finally, Arya spoke again. When I was with Lily earlier, showing her my drawings, I had this flash. Not a dream. More like a memory. I was little, maybe 3 or 4, and someone was teaching me to draw. A woman with Claire's voice. She kept saying, "Good job, sweetheart," and I felt so safe. Her voice cracked. Was that real? Or is my brain just making up stories to fill the gaps? I don't know, but Claire loved art, taught elementary school art for years before Lily was born. Did she ever mention teaching anyone else before she was a teacher? Ethan thought back, trying to remember conversations from 8-9 years ago. She talked about babysitting when she was a teenager, said there was one kid she watched a lot, got really attached to, cried for weeks when the family moved away. Arya's breath caught. When? I don't know, high school maybe? She never said specifics. High school would have been early 2000s, right around when I was born. They stared at each other as the implication settled. If Claire babysat you, Ethan said slowly, and then Sarah took you back, that's why she was begging Mom to tell me the truth. She'd been part of my life. She knew who I was, where I came from, and she had to watch Mom run away with me and pretend none of it ever happened. That would explain why she never got over losing Sarah's friendship. It wasn't just a friend she lost. It was you. Arya stood abruptly, hands shaking. I need to go. Wait, I need to process this alone, please. Ethan wanted to argue, to convince her to stay where he could make sure she was okay, but he recognized the look in her eyes, the same one he saw in the mirror on bad days, the need to break down in private. Call me if you need anything, anytime. She nodded, already halfway to her car. He watched her drive away, that familiar helpless feeling settling in his chest. His phone rang an hour later. Joan. Lily called me, said Arya was crying. She's going through some stuff. Ethan, I need you to be honest with me. What exactly is your relationship with this girl? I don't know yet. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He pinched the bridge of his nose. We're trying to figure out her past, and it connects to Claire in ways I didn't expect. That's all. And you have feelings for her. Mom? Don't mom me. I can hear it in your voice. You care about her, maybe more than you should. Ethan was quiet. I'm not judging, Joan said softer. You deserve to be happy, to move on. But this girl is damaged, Ethan, and you're still healing. That's not a good combination. Maybe we're healing each other. Or maybe you're both drowning and calling it swimming. The word stung because part of him wondered if she was right. If he was using Arya as a life raft, something to cling to so he didn't have to face the emptiness waiting on the other side. I have to figure this out on my own, he said finally. I know you're worried, but you have to let me make my own mistakes. Joan sighed. Just promise me you'll think about Lily, what this is doing to her. I think about Lily every second of every day. That's not going to change. They said goodbye stiffly. Ethan sat in the dark living room and tried to untangle his motives. Was he helping Arya because it was the right thing to do, or because she made him feel less alone? And did the reason even matter if the outcome was the same? His phone buzzed. Text from Arya. I'm okay, just needed some air. Thank you for not following me. Anytime. Did you get home safe? Yeah. Can't sleep though. Keep thinking about Claire teaching me to draw, about being 3 years old and feeling safe with her. That's a good memory. Is it? Or is it just making this worse? I don't know. But I think maybe the memories aren't the problem. The not knowing is. When does the DNA kit arrive? Tomorrow. Good. I'm tired of waiting. Me too. He wanted to say more. Wanted to tell her that he was scared too, that he didn't know what he was doing, that somewhere along the way she'd stopped being a mystery and started being someone he needed in ways that terrified him. But that felt like too much to put in a text message. So he just sent, try to get some sleep. We'll figure this out. Together? Together. The DNA kit arrived at noon. Ethan brought it to Arya's apartment, found her already showered and dressed like she'd been waiting by the door. I've been awake since 4, she admitted. Couldn't stop thinking about what this might mean. Whatever it means, we handle it. They drove to Ethan's house. Lily was at Joan's for the afternoon. He'd told his mother they needed a few hours to sort through some paperwork. Not technically a lie, just not the whole truth. The test was simple. Cheek swabs, sealed containers, express shipping to the lab. Results in 48 hours. What if it's negative? Arya asked, staring at the sealed package. What if we're not related at all? Then we know, and we keep looking for other answers. And if it's positive, then we know that too, and we figure out what it means. She nodded, but her hands were shaking when she gave him the package to mail.
They spent the afternoon at a coffee shop, trading theories and shooting them down. Arya's phone rang around 3. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. Arya Lane? A man's voice, professional. Speaking. This is Detective Marcus Chen, Portland PD. I'm calling about a cold case file that was recently flagged in our system. Sarah Mitchell's death in 2022. Are you her daughter? Arya's face went white. Yes, but I thought her death was ruled accidental, car accident. It was. I'm calling because we received a tip last week suggesting there may have been more to it. Someone claiming to have information about threats made against Ms. Mitchell in the months before her death. What kind of threats? That's what I'm trying to determine. The tipster mentioned you by name, said you were asking questions about your childhood and that it might be connected. Papers rustled. Ms. Lane, did your mother ever mention being worried about someone from her past? Anyone who might want to hurt her? No, she was paranoid sometimes, but I thought it was just anxiety. Did she ever mention the name Mitchell, besides her own surname?
Arya's eyes met Ethan's. Yes, recently. I found a letter suggesting she had connections to a family by that name. I'd like to see that letter, and any other documents you've uncovered. This might be nothing, but if there's a chance Ms. Mitchell's death wasn't accidental, you think someone killed her. Arya's voice went flat. I think it's worth investigating. Can you come down to the station? Bring whatever you've found? I'm in a different state right now. I can scan and email everything. That works. I'll send you my contact info. He paused. Miss Lane, if your mother was running from something, there's a possibility that threat didn't die with her. Please be careful. The call ended. Arya sat frozen, coffee untouched. They think someone killed her, she whispered. All this time, I thought it was just a stupid accident and someone might have... We don't know that yet. Ethan covered her hand with his. Let's not jump to conclusions. But what if it's connected? What if finding out the truth about me is what got her killed? Then we're even more careful. And we make sure we have proof before we confront anyone. Arya pulled out her phone with shaking hands. I need to send him everything. The letter, the medical files, all of it. They spent the next 2 hours at Ethan's house, scanning documents. Arya wrote up everything she remembered, the dreams, the memories that didn't fit, the fragments of a life before age 4. Ethan added what he knew about Claire and Sarah's friendship, the gaps in Claire's journals around 2006. By the time they finished, it was after 6. Lily would be home soon. Arya gathered her things to leave. Stay for dinner, Ethan said. Please. You shouldn't be alone right now. I'm fine. You're not. And that's okay. But you don't have to pretend with me. She looked at him, defenses crumbling. What are we doing, Ethan, really? I don't know, but I know I don't want you to leave. That's not an answer. It's the best I've got. Arya laughed shakily. We're both terrible at this. At what? Whatever this is. Joan dropped Lily off at 6:30, gave Arya a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes, and left quickly. Lily chattered through dinner about her day with Grandma, oblivious to the tension hanging over the adults. After Lily went to bed, Ethan and Arya sat on the couch with the TV on mute, neither really watching. I keep thinking about what the detective said, Arya murmured, that the threat might not have died with Mom. We'll be careful. You keep saying that, but what if careful isn't enough? Then we'll be smart. And if it comes to it, we'll walk away. You really think you could walk away from answers? Ethan thought about that, about the pull he felt toward truth, toward understanding, about how Arya had become tangled up in that need until he couldn't separate wanting answers from wanting her. I don't know, he admitted, but I know I'm not letting anything happen to you, or to Lily. That's a big promise. I mean it. She turned to face him, and in the dim light from the TV, she looked younger, more vulnerable. Ethan, if the DNA test proves we're sisters, if Claire really was my family, what does that make us? I don't know. But I know it doesn't change the fact that He stopped, the words catching in his throat. That you what? That I care about you. More than I should, probably. More than makes sense given we've known each other 2 weeks. 3 weeks tomorrow. Right, 3 weeks. Which is insane. Completely insane. She shifted closer. But I care about you too. And that's terrifying. Why?
Because everyone I care about leaves, or dies, or turns out to be lying to me about who I am. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not lying. You don't know that. You don't know what the truth is going to do to us. Then we'll find out together. She stared at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Then she leaned in, and Ethan's brain short-circuited because she was going to kiss him, and he wanted her to, but this was wrong, wasn't it? She might be Claire's sister, might be... Arya stopped an inch from his lips. Tell me to stop. I can't. Why not? Because I don't want you to. She closed the distance, and it was nothing like kissing Claire. Claire had been soft, tentative, sweet. Arya kissed like she was drowning, and he was air. Desperate and messy and real in a way that made his chest ache. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, reality crashed back. That was a mistake, Arya said. Probably. We should wait until we know... Yeah. But neither of them moved, just sat there, foreheads touching, trying to catch their breath. I should go, Arya whispered. You should. She pulled back, stood up, grabbed her bag. At the door, she turned. Ethan? Yeah? When we get the DNA results, no matter what they say, this thing between us, we need to figure out what it is. I know. Because I can't keep feeling like I'm falling for someone who might be my dead sister's husband. The words landed like a punch. Ethan had been so focused on whether Arya was Claire's sister, he hadn't thought about what that would mean for them. If Claire had raised Arya, even briefly, if they were family, we'll figure it out, he said, though he had no idea how. Arya left, and Ethan sat alone in the dark, replaying the kiss, wondering what the hell he was doing, wondering if Joan was right, and they were both drowning. His phone buzzed 2 hours later. I can't stop thinking about you. He stared at the message, finger hovering over the keyboard. Same. This is going to get complicated. Already is. I don't regret it, though. The kiss. Me neither. We're idiots, completely. Good night, Ethan. Good night, Arya. He lay awake until dawn, mind spinning through scenarios. What if she was Claire's sister? What if she wasn't? What if the truth was worse than either of them imagined? And underneath it all, one question he couldn't escape. When had Arya stopped being about Claire and started being about him? 48 hours had never felt longer. Ethan went through the motions at work, picked Lily up from school, made dinners he didn't taste. Arya texted updates. The detective was reviewing her files, cross-referencing with old missing persons reports. The PI Ethan had hired called with preliminary findings. Sarah Mitchell had indeed given birth in 2002, but there was no adoption paperwork in the public record. Either it was sealed or it never happened officially. On the second night, Lily asked the question Ethan had been dreading. Daddy, do you like Arya? Of course I like her. She's nice. No, I mean, like? The way you liked Mommy. Ethan set down the dish he'd been washing. Why do you ask? Because you smile more when she's here, and you look at her the way people look at each other in movies. 6 years old and already too perceptive. It's complicated, Bug. Is it because she looks like Mommy? Maybe at first, but not anymore. Is that okay? To like someone who's not Mommy? Ethan knelt down to her level. Do you remember what we talked about? About how Mommy would want us to be happy? Lily nodded. Well, Arya makes me happy, but she's also dealing with some hard stuff right now, and I'm trying to help her, and I don't know what that means for us yet. But you want it to mean something? Yeah, Bug, I do. Lily thought about this, then hugged him tight. I like her too. I think Mommy would have liked her. Ethan held his daughter and tried not to think about how right she might be. If Arya really was who they thought she was, Claire had already loved her, had fought to protect her, had written letters begging Sarah to tell her the truth. The DNA results came back at 3:47 p.m. on the third day. Ethan was in a meeting when his phone buzzed with the notification. He excused himself, locked himself in the bathroom, and opened the email with shaking hands. The words blurred together at first. Genetic markers, percentages, probability ratings. He had to read it 3 times before the conclusion sank in. Arya and Lily shared 24.7% of their DNA, half-sisters with 99.98% certainty, which meant Arya was Claire's sister, which meant everything they'd theorized was true. and which meant Ethan had just kissed his late wife's sister. He called Arya. She answered on the first ring. Did you? Yeah, just got the email. Silence. Then, so it's real, all of it. Yeah. I'm Claire's sister. The baby she helped raise, the one Sarah took back. Looks like it. More silence. Ethan could hear her breathing, could picture her trying to process this the same way he was. We need to talk, Arya said, in person. Tonight, after Lily's asleep. Your place or mine? Yours. I don't want Lily overhearing. Okay, 8 o'clock? I'll be there. He hung up and stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. The man looking back at him seemed like a stranger. Someone who'd spent 3 years in careful stasis and then blown it all up in 3 weeks chasing a ghost. Except Arya wasn't a ghost. She was real, and she was family. And that should have made everything clearer, but instead it just made everything infinitely more complicated. Ethan arrived at Arya's apartment at 8:03, hands shaking so badly he could barely knock. She opened the door before his knuckles hit wood, like she'd been standing there waiting. Her eyes were red, hair pulled back in a messy knot, wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Come in. The apartment was different than last time. The boxes were unpacked now, scattered across the floor with their contents exposed. Photos, documents, a lifetime of Sarah's secrets spread out like evidence at a crime scene. I couldn't stop looking, Arya said, gesturing at the mess. Once I got the results, I just started tearing through everything, looking for proof that I didn't imagine it. And she handed him a photograph. 2 little girls, maybe 3 and 4 years old, holding hands in front of a white house with blue shutters. The older girl had Claire's face. The younger one was undeniably Arya. Found it in an envelope marked "Do Not Open." Her laugh was bitter. Naturally, I opened it. Ethan stared at the photo, at his wife as a child, protective arm around her little sister. At the house he'd seen in Arya's drawings, in her dreams. There's more, Arya said. She handed him a stack of letters, all addressed to Sarah, all from Claire, dated between 2002 and 2006. He opened one at random. Dear Sarah, she asked about you today, called you Mama Sarah, and wanted to know when you were coming back. I told her you were on a trip, but I could see she didn't believe me. She's too smart for her own good. Mom and Dad still won't talk about you. Won't explain why you left or when you're coming back or if you're coming back at all. They just keep saying Arya is ours now, like that makes it okay. Like a piece of paper erases 4 years of you being her mother. I don't know what to do. I love her so much it hurts. But she's not mine. She's yours. And every day I keep that secret feels like I'm stealing something that doesn't belong to me. Please write back. Please tell me what to do. See, Ethan's throat closed. He flipped to another letter, then another. They painted a picture he'd never imagined. Claire, 14 years old, suddenly thrust into the role of sister and caretaker. Sarah, desperate and young, trying to maintain some connection to the daughter she'd given up. And between them, a little girl who remembered her first mother and couldn't understand why she'd been replaced. How did this happen, he asked. How does a teenage mother just take back a child she legally gave up? She didn't, not legally. Arya pulled out another document, a police report from June 2006. She kidnapped me. Ethan read the report. Sarah Mitchell, age 20, arrested for custodial interference and child abduction, released on bail, court date scheduled. Then nothing. The case file just stopped. What happened to the charges? Dropped. Supposedly, the Mitchells decided not to prosecute. Arya's voice was flat. But I found this too. Another document. A settlement agreement between Sarah Mitchell and Robert and Margaret Mitchell. Confidential, terms sealed. But the date was clear. 3 weeks after Sarah's arrest. Right in the window where the social worker's file had gone silent. They paid her off, Ethan said slowly. Let her keep you in exchange for disappearing, and for never telling me the truth. There's a clause here. Arya pointed to a section of dense legal text. Sarah agreed to never contact the Mitchell family again, never reveal Arya's origins or connection to the Mitchell family, and to raise the child under a different identity. In exchange, all charges dropped, and she receives a one-time payment of $50,000. Jesus. Yeah, Arya sat down hard on the couch. So my whole life was bought and paid for. My mother sold my identity for 50 grand and a clean record. She was protecting you. Was she? Or was she just protecting herself? Arya smoot. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't try to make this noble. She lied to me for 20 years. Let me believe I was someone I wasn't. And when she was dying, when she had every chance to tell me the truth, she just kept lying. Ethan sat beside her, careful not to touch. Maybe she thought the lie was kinder. Or maybe she was a coward. They sat in silence, the weight of revelation pressing down. Finally, Ethan spoke. The DNA results. You and Lily. Half-sisters. Arya's voice cracked. Which makes Claire my sister. Which makes you my brother-in-law. Yeah. Which makes that kiss a really, really bad idea. Yeah. More silence. Then Arya laughed, high and slightly unhinged. This is insane. 3 weeks ago I didn't know you existed. Now you're family. And I have a niece, and my dead sister was married to a man I... She cut herself off. A man you what? Nothing. Forget it. Arya, we can't do this, Ethan. She stood abruptly, paced to the window. Whatever this is between us, we can't. You loved Claire. I'm Claire's sister. That makes it wrong. Does it? Of course it does. Why? Because some social rule says so? Because it looks bad? Because it's complicated. Because I don't know how to separate what I feel for you from what I feel about finally having family. Because you don't know if you want me or if you want another piece of Claire. That landed hard. Ethan stood, faced her across the room. You think I'm using you as a replacement for my dead wife? Aren't you? No. You're nothing like Claire. I have her DNA. Her face. I'm raising her daughter. You're not raising Lily. You barely know her. But I could. That's the point. I could step into this ready-made life and play house with my dead sister's family and pretend that's normal. Is that what you think this is? Playing house? Arya's eyes went bright. I don't know what this is. That's the problem. Then let me tell you what I know. Ethan crossed to her, forced her to look at him. I know that when I'm with you, I feel alive for the first time in 3 years. I know you make me want things I thought I'd buried with Claire. I know you're stubborn and damaged and scared, and you push people away before they can hurt you. And I know that none of that has anything to do with you looking like my wife. It has to do with you being you. You don't know me. Then let me. Why? So you can add me to your collection of broken things you're trying to fix? I'm not trying to fix you. Then what are you trying to do? I'm trying to be honest about the fact that I have feelings for you, real feelings, that scare the hell out of me. And yeah, the timing is terrible and the circumstances are insane, but that doesn't make them less real. Arya stared at him, chest heaving. We can't. Why not? Because what happens when you wake up one day and realize I'm not her? That I can't be her? That I'm just a poor substitute with the same cheekbones? You're not a substitute. Prove it. The challenge hung between them. Ethan could walk away, should walk away. This was messy and complicated and probably a disaster waiting to happen. Joan would kill him. Margaret would disown him. And what would he tell Lily? But looking at Arya, fierce and broken and trying so hard not to hope, he found he didn't care about any of that. I can't prove it with words, he said quietly. But I can prove it with time, with showing up, with choosing you every day, even when it's hard. That's a pretty speech. It's the truth. Arya's defenses cracked. I'm so tired of being alone, Ethan, but I'm terrified of letting you in, and then losing you like I've lost everyone else. You won't lose me. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise to try, and that's more than I've been able to promise anyone in 3 years. She looked at him for a long moment, weighing trust against fear. Finally, she closed the distance between them. This is a terrible idea, she whispered. The worst. We're going to regret this. Probably. She kissed him, and it was different than before. Slower, less desperate, like she was trying to memorize the shape of his mouth, the taste of his hope. When they broke apart, Arya rested her forehead against his. What do we tell Lily? The truth. That you're her aunt, that we're figuring out what that means. And the rest of it? Us? We take it slow, see where it goes. Your mother is going to lose her mind. Let her. This isn't her life. Arya pulled back, studied his face. You've changed since we met. You're different. How? Braver. Or maybe just more reckless. Could be both. She smiled, small but real. I should probably tell you something about the detective. The moment shattered. What about him? He called earlier while I was going through Mom's stuff. They found something in Sarah's car, the one that crashed. Brake lines were cut. Ethan went cold. Someone killed her. Looks like it, and they think it's connected to this. To me finding out the truth. Did he say who? No, but he asked if I'd had any contact with the Mitchell family, if anyone knew I was looking into my past. We need to tell him everything. The settlement, the letters, all of it. I already did. Scanned and sent this afternoon. Arya's hands twisted together. He said I should be careful, that if someone was willing to kill Sarah to keep the secret, they might come after me too. Then we go to the police, get protection, and tell them what? That my adoptive grandparents might be murderers because they don't want anyone to know they paid off my birth mother? We don't have proof, Ethan, just suspicions. The brake lines could have been tampered with by anyone. The detective said it was done professionally. No fingerprints, no witnesses, just a single car accident that looked exactly like what it was supposed to look like. Ethan pulled out his phone. I'm calling the PI I hired. Tell him to dig into the Mitchells, financial records, phone logs, anything that might connect them to Sarah's death. That could take weeks. Then we wait, and we're careful. Arya laughed bitterly. You keep saying that word like it means something, but careful didn't save my mom. And it won't save me if they decide I know too much. They who? Your grandparents? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe it's someone else. Someone who had a stake in keeping me hidden. She grabbed a stack of papers, thrust them at him. Look at the settlement again. Really look. Ethan scanned the document. Standard legal language, confidentiality clauses, payment terms. Then he saw it. The signature at the bottom wasn't Robert or Margaret Mitchell. It was someone named David Chen, attorney at law. Chen, he said slowly. The detective's last name is Chen. I noticed that too. Could be coincidence. Or not. They stared at each other, implications spinning out. We need to be smart about this, Ethan said. If the detective is involved, if he's connected to whoever wanted Sarah dead, then we just handed him everything we know. What do you suggest? We can't exactly unsend those emails. No, but we can make copies, document everything, give it to someone we trust. Like who? My lawyer. He's handled my estate stuff since Claire died. Completely trustworthy. Arya nodded slowly. Okay, but we do it tonight, before anyone has a chance to make those files disappear. They spent the next 2 hours photographing every document, every letter, every piece of evidence they'd collected. Ethan uploaded it all to a secure cloud storage, sent copies to his lawyer with instructions to open them if anything happened to him or Arya. By the time they finished, it was past midnight. Arya walked him to the door, exhaustion written across her face. Thank you, she said, for not running when this got complicated. Thank you for not pushing me away when I tried to help. Don't thank me yet. This is probably going to get worse before it gets better. I know. She kissed him goodnight, soft and quick. Be careful driving home. You be careful, period. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone. Yes, Dad. Despite everything, he smiled. I'll call you in the morning. You better. Ethan drove home through empty streets, mind racing through scenarios. If the Mitchells were involved in Sarah's death, if they knew Arya was asking questions, what would they do? And how did Detective Chen fit into all this? Was he genuinely investigating, or was he gathering information for whoever wanted the truth buried? His phone rang. Joan. Of course. It's after midnight, Mom. I know. Lily had another nightmare. She's asking for you. Guilt twisted his gut. I'm 10 minutes away. Can you stay until I get there? Where are you? Out, handling something. With that girl. Arya. Her name is Arya, and yes. Joan was quiet for a beat. Ethan, I'm worried about you. You're acting like someone I don't recognize. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Or maybe it's grief making you reckless. It's not grief. It's the opposite. It's finally feeling something again. I
At what cost? You have a daughter who needs you, a life that needs attention, and you're chasing after my sister-in-law. Arya is Claire's sister, Mom. We got DNA confirmation today. The line went silent. You're serious, Joan said finally. Completely. Claire's parents adopted her when she was a baby. Sarah took her back when she was 4. The whole thing was covered up with a payoff and a sealed settlement. Margaret and Robert knew? About the adoption, yes. About Sarah taking her back, yes. About what happened after, I don't know. But it's connected to Sarah's death and Arya's in danger, and I'm not walking away from that. Joan exhaled slowly. You love her. It wasn't a question. Ethan thought about denying it, but found he couldn't. I think so. I know it's fast and complicated. It's not complicated, it's terrifying, because if something happens to her, you'll break all over again. And I don't know if you'd survive it this time. Then I guess I better make sure nothing happens to her. He hung up before Joan could argue, pulled into his driveway, and found his mother on the porch with Lily wrapped in a blanket. Daddy! Lily ran to him, face streaked with tears. Hey, Bug, bad dreams? I dreamed the lady from the park went away and never came back. Ethan's chest tightened. He carried her inside, Joan following. Arya's not going anywhere, he said, settling Lily on the couch. In fact, I have something to tell you about her. Something important. Lily's eyes went wide. What? Remember how we talked about how Arya's mom and your mom were best friends when they were little? Uh-huh. Well, it turns out Arya and your mom were actually sisters, which means Arya is your aunt. Lily processed this, brow furrowed. Like how Maya has an Aunt Jennifer? Exactly like that. So she's family. She's family. A slow smile spread across Lily's face. Can we see her tomorrow? Ethan glanced at Joan, who looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Maybe this weekend. She's dealing with some grown-up stuff right now. Is she okay? She's going to be. We're going to make sure of it. Joan cleared her throat. Lily, sweetheart, why don't you go get ready for bed? I need to talk to your daddy. After Lily disappeared upstairs, Joan turned to Ethan. You're serious about this? About her? I am. Even though she's Claire's sister? Because she's Claire's sister. Because she's part of this family whether we planned it or not. And because I care about her. Joan studied him for a long moment. Claire would have wanted her found, would have wanted her safe. I know, but she would also want you to be happy, to move on. And if this girl, Arya, if she makes you happy, then I'll support it, even if it scares me. Ethan hugged his mother, surprised by the sudden sting of tears. Thank you. Just promise me you'll be careful, for Lily's sake. I promise. After Joan left, Ethan checked on Lily, found her already asleep, Mr. Trunk tucked under one arm. He stood in the doorway watching her breathe, thinking about how fast everything had changed. 4 weeks ago, his life had been predictable. Safe. Numb. Now it was dangerous and complicated and utterly terrifying. And for the first time in 3 years, he felt like he was actually living instead of just surviving. His phone buzzed. Arya, can't sleep. Keep thinking about Sarah's car, about someone cutting those brakes. Don't think about it. Think about something good. Like what? Like the fact that you're not alone anymore. You have family. You have me. That's a lot of pressure. We can handle it. A pause. Then, Ethan, I'm scared. Me too. What if we can't figure this out? What if whoever killed Sarah comes after me and I never get to know Lily? Never get to be her aunt properly? That's not going to happen. You don't know that. Then we make sure of it. Together. Another pause. I don't know what I did to deserve you showing up when you did, but I'm glad you're here. Same. Get some sleep. I'll call you in the morning. Good night, Ethan. Good night. He lay awake long after the text stopped, staring at the ceiling, mind spinning through worst-case scenarios. If the Mitchells knew Arya was digging into the past, if they'd been willing to kill Sarah to keep the secret buried, what would they do when they found out about the DNA test? About Ethan's involvement? And underneath that fear was another, quieter worry. What happened when the danger passed and they had to figure out what they were to each other? When there was no mystery to solve, no threat to unite against, just two damaged people trying to build something real?
Morning came too fast. Ethan dragged himself through the routine. Breakfast, getting Lily ready for school, pretending everything was normal. His phone rang at 8:47. The PI. "I've got information on the Mitchells," he said without preamble, "and you're not going to like it." "Tell me." Robert Mitchell died 6 months ago. Heart attack. Margaret's in assisted living, mid-stage dementia. She hasn't made a coherent decision in over a year. Ethan's stomach sank. So they couldn't have been involved in Sarah's death. Not directly. But here's where it gets interesting. Robert's estate went through probate. Most assets went to Margaret's care, but there was a trust set up years ago. Substantial amount. Beneficiary is listed as David Chen, the lawyer who signed the settlement, and brother to Detective Marcus Chen. Jesus. Gets better. David Chen died in a car accident 5 years ago. Mechanical failure, brake malfunction. The world tilted. Same as Sarah. Same Mo.
Yeah. Which means either we've got a very specific coincidence or someone's been cleaning house. Who inherits David's trust? That's the million-dollar question. I'm still digging, but the paperwork's buried under layers of shell companies. Whoever set this up knew what they were doing. Could it be Marcus Chen, the detective? It's possible. Or someone else entirely. I should have more in a couple days. We might not have a couple days. Then be careful and watch your back. The PI hung up and Ethan immediately called Arya. She answered on the first ring. "Tell me you have good news." The opposite. The Mitchells aren't our problem. They're either dead or incapacitated. But the lawyer who handled the settlement, David Chen, he died 5 years ago, same way Sarah did. Arya's breath caught. Brake failure. Yeah, and his brother Marcus is the detective supposedly investigating Sarah's death. So either Marcus is trying to solve his brother's murder, or he's covering his tracks, making sure no one connects the dots. We need to get out of here, both of us. Where? I don't know. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't find us while we figure this out. Ethan thought fast. My family has a cabin. 2 hours north, middle of nowhere. No one knows about it except Joan, and she won't tell. Can we go today? I have to pick up Lily from school at 3. We can leave after that. Okay, I'll pack. Meet you at your place at 4? 4 works. Arya, I know. Be careful. Lock the doors. Don't trust anyone. I was going to say I'm glad you're okay. Her voice softened. Me too. See you soon. Ethan spent the day in paranoid hypervigilance, jumping at every phone call, checking the rearview mirror constantly. Picked up Lily from school and tried to act normal while explaining they were going on an unexpected camping trip. Is Arya coming? Lily asked. Yes. Good. I like her. Me too, Bug. Arya arrived at 4:07, one bag packed, face pale but determined. They loaded up Ethan's car and headed north, 3 people running from a threat they couldn't see but knew was real. The cabin was exactly as Ethan remembered. Small, isolated, surrounded by pine trees. No cell service, no neighbors, just silence and safety. We can stay here as long as we need, he said, unlocking the door. Figure out our next move. Lily ran inside, delighted by the adventure. Arya lingered on the porch, staring out at the trees. Thank you, she said quietly. For this. For everything. We're family. That's what family does. She turned to look at him, and in the fading light, she looked so much like Claire it hurt. But the expression was all Arya, fierce and fragile and fighting. I'm not going to let them win, she said. Whoever killed Sarah, whoever's trying to bury the truth. I'm going to find out who they are, and I'm going to make sure they pay. We're going to find out, together. Together, she echoed. And standing there in the doorway of a cabin in the middle of nowhere, running from danger with the family he'd built from broken pieces, Ethan realized something. He wasn't afraid anymore. Not of the truth, not of the threat, not of what came next. For the first time in 3 years, he was ready to fight. They spent the first night at the cabin in careful domesticity. Ethan made spaghetti that was slightly overcooked. Lily taught Arya a card game with rules that changed every 5 minutes, and nobody mentioned the reason they were hiding in the woods. It felt like playing pretend, like if they acted normal enough, the danger would evaporate. But after Lily fell asleep in the loft bedroom, curled around Mr. Trunk, reality came crashing back. We can't stay here forever, Arya said.
She was standing by the window, watching darkness settle over the trees. Eventually, we have to face this. I know. Ethan joined her, close enough that their shoulders touched. But we need a plan first. Something better than just hoping Marcus Chen is one of the good guys. What if he's not? What if calling him was the stupidest thing I could have done? Then we deal with it, but we're not doing it alone. Arya turned to face him. You keep saying that. We. Like you're bound to this somehow. I am bound to this. You're Lily's aunt. That makes you family. Is that all I am? The question hung between them. Ethan could deflect, keep things safe and undefined, but standing in the dim light of a cabin in the middle of nowhere, running from God knew what, safe felt like a lie he was tired of telling. No, he said quietly. That's not all you are. Then what am I? You're someone I can't stop thinking about. Someone who makes me want to be braver than I actually am. Someone who walked into my life 4 weeks ago and turned everything upside down, and He stopped, the words catching. You what? I think I'm falling for you, which is insane and terrible timing and probably the worst decision I could make. But it's true. Arya stared at him, eyes bright in the shadows. I'm broken, Ethan. I don't even know who I am half the time. How can you fall for someone who's just pieces? Because I'm pieces too, and maybe that's the point. Maybe broken people understand each other better than whole ones ever could. She kissed him then, fierce and desperate, like she was trying to prove something. When they broke apart, both breathless, she rested her forehead against his. This is really stupid, she whispered. The stupidest. We should wait until things are safe, until we know. I don't want to wait. I've spent 3 years waiting for life to feel less heavy, and it never did. Not until you. Arya pulled back, searched his face. What if we can't figure this out? What if Marcus comes after us? Or whoever killed Sarah? Or then we'll handle it, together. But I'm done pretending I don't want this. Want you. She was quiet for a long moment, emotions warring across her face. Finally, she nodded. Okay, but we do this right. We protect Lily first. Everything else comes second. Agreed. They sat on the couch, Arya curled against his side, and tried to piece together what they knew. Sarah dead, brakes cut. David Chen dead, same method. The Mitchells out of the picture. Marcus Chen investigating but possibly implicated. And somewhere in the mess, a secret worth killing to protect. What if it's not about me? Arya said suddenly. What if Sarah's death had nothing to do with me finding out the truth? Then why kill her? Because she knew something else. Something that got her brother-in-law killed too. Ethan sat up. David Chen wasn't just Sarah's lawyer. He was married to my aunt, Sarah's sister. Arya grabbed her phone, swore when she saw there was no service. We need internet. I need to look up my aunt's name, see if she's still alive, if we can drive into town tomorrow. There's a library with Wi-Fi. Tomorrow might be too late. Then we make sure it's not. Ethan stood, started pacing. If your aunt is alive, she might know what Sarah and David knew, might know who wanted them dead. Or she might be the next target. The thought sent ice through Ethan's veins. What's her name? Patricia. Patricia Chen. She stopped returning my calls last week and I thought she was just avoiding me. But what if... Don't go there yet. He pulled Arya to her feet. We'll find her tomorrow. Make sure she's safe. Get answers. And if Marcus gets to her first? Then we go to the FBI, the state police. Someone outside the local jurisdiction who can't be bought or threatened. Arya nodded, but her hands were shaking. Ethan pulled her close, felt her trembling against him. Hey, we're going to be okay. You don't know that. No, but I believe it. And sometimes that has to be enough. They spent the night on the couch, neither wanting to be alone, waking every few hours to check on Lily and confirm the doors were locked. Morning came gray and cold, frost on the windows. Lily woke up cheerful, oblivious to the tension. Can we make pancakes? Ethan and Arya exchanged a look. Sure, Bug, but they're probably going to be terrible. That's okay. I like terrible pancakes. They were, in fact, terrible. Burnt on the outside, raw in the middle, exactly the way Ethan always made them. Lily doused hers in syrup and declared them perfect. Arya picked at hers, mind clearly elsewhere. We need to go into town, Ethan said when Lily wandered off to explore the cabin. Check on your aunt. Get some answers.
What about Lily?
Joan can come get her. Take her back to the city for a few days until we sort this out. You trust Joan with the truth? She's family, and she's been worried about us anyway. Might as well tell her why. He called from the landline in the cabin, ancient rotary phone that still worked, and explained the situation in broad strokes. Joan listened without interrupting, then asked the question he'd been dreading. Are you in danger? Maybe. I don't know yet, but I need to keep Lily out of it until we're sure. I'll come get her. Be there in 2 hours. Mom, don't. Whatever you're about to say, don't. Just keep my granddaughter safe and figure this mess out. She hung up. Ethan turned to find Arya watching him. She's good people, Arya said. Yeah, even when she drives me crazy. They spent the next hour packing Lily's things, explaining that Grandma was coming for a surprise visit. Lily was thrilled, started chattering about what movies they'd watch, what cookies they'd bake. Will you be here when I get back? She asked Arya. I hope so, sweetie. Promise? Arya hesitated, and Ethan saw the fear in her eyes, the very real possibility that she might not be able to keep that promise. I promise to try my very hardest, Arya said finally. Is that good enough? Lily considered this, then nodded solemnly. Okay, but you have to really try. Because you're my aunt now, and aunts don't leave. Deal. Joan arrived exactly on time, took one look at Arya and Ethan and pulled him aside. You look like hell. Thanks, Mom. I'm serious. What's going on? Really? He told her, all of it. The DNA results, Sarah's murder, the connection to David Chen, their suspicions about Marcus. Joan listened with increasing alarm. You need to go to the police. We can't. Not until we know who to trust. Then let me help. I can make calls, reach out to people. No, the best thing you can do is keep Lily safe and out of this, please. Joan searched his face, then nodded. Be careful, both of you. We will. After they left, the cabin felt too quiet. Ethan and Arya stood in the driveway, watching Joan's car disappear down the dirt road. Ready? He asked. No, but let's go anyway. They drove to town in tense silence, found the library, used the public computers to search for Patricia Chen, found an address 20 minutes away, a small house in a residential neighborhood, found an obituary dated 3 days ago. Arya's face went white. She's dead. Ethan read the notice. Patricia Chen, 58, died peacefully at home, surrounded by family. Services pending. Peacefully at home, he said slowly. That's what they always say when it's suspicious. We need to talk to Marcus, confront him. That's insane. If he's involved, then we need to know. I'm tired of running, Ethan. I'm tired of being scared. Before he could argue, Arya was already pulling out her phone, dialing the number Detective Chen had given her. It rang 4 times, went to voicemail. She left a message. This is Arya Lane. We need to talk. About your brother. About my aunt. About who's been cleaning up loose ends. She rattled off the cabin's address. I'll be here until 6 p.m. tonight. Come alone. She hung up. Ethan stared at her. You just told a potentially dangerous cop where we're staying. I told someone who lost his brother the same way I lost my mother that I know what happened. If he's innocent, he'll come looking for answers. If he's not, she shrugged. At least we'll know. That's a terrible plan. You have a better one? He didn't, so they drove back to the cabin and waited. Marcus Chen showed up at 4:47 p.m. Alone, like Arya had requested. He looked exhausted, older than his voice suggested over the phone. Pulled up in an unmarked sedan and sat in the car for a full minute before getting out. Ethan opened the door before he could knock. You came. Your girlfriend left me a hell of a message. Marcus looked past him to where Arya stood in the living room. You said you know what happened to David. Come in. We'll tell you everything. They sat around the kitchen table, strange echo of a dozen family dinners Ethan had hosted in his real life. Marcus Chen pulled out a notebook, listened without interrupting as Arya laid out the timeline. Sarah's adoption of her, the Mitchells taking her, Sarah stealing her back, the settlement David had brokered, David's death 5 years ago, Sarah's death 2 months ago, Patricia's death 3 days ago. All break failures, Marcus said when she finished. His voice was flat, cop-neutral. Except Patricia's wasn't. She had a stroke. You believe that? Arya challenged. I want to, but no. He set down his pen. I've been investigating David's death for 5 years. Officially ruled accidental, but I never bought it. He was too careful, had his car serviced every 3 months like clockwork. And the timing, right after he'd told me he found something in an old case file. Something that could blow up a lot of lives if it came out. What case? He wouldn't say. Said it was covered by attorney-client privilege until he could figure out a way around it. 2 days later, he's dead. Marcus's jaw tightened. When Sarah Mitchell died the same way, I pulled David's old client list. Her name was on it. So was Patricia's. That's when I knew it wasn't coincidence. Why didn't you go to your department? Launch a formal investigation? Because I don't know who I can trust. David's last words to me were, be careful who you talk to. This goes higher than you think. He met Ethan's eyes. When Aria called me, I ran a background check. Found out about her connection to the Mitchells, to you, to Claire. Started wondering if maybe David's case involved your family. The settlement, Ethan said. The one David brokered between Sarah and the Mitchells. What if there was something in the terms that someone wanted hidden? I've been trying to get those records unsealed for weeks. Judge keeps denying the request. Which judge? Marcus named him. Ethan felt the bottom drop out of his stomach. That's Margaret Mitchell's brother, Claire's uncle. Silence fell like a hammer. Family connection, Marcus said. That's why the records are buried. Someone with power wanted that adoption erased from history. But why? Aria's voice rose. I was a baby. What could possibly be worth killing 3 people to hide? That's what we need to find out. Marcus pulled out his phone. I have a friend in the state attorney general's office. Owes me a favor. If I can get her to subpoena those records, do it, Ethan said. Whatever it takes. Marcus made the call, spoke in low tones for 10 minutes, gave their location, promised to stay put. Hung up, looking grim. She'll get the subpoena, but it'll take until tomorrow morning to process. Meantime, she's sending a protection detail. 2 state troopers who aren't connected to the local jurisdiction. You think we're in that much danger? 3 people are dead. I'm not taking chances. He looked at Aria. Whatever your mother knew, whatever David and Patricia knew, someone is desperate to keep it buried, desperate enough to kill. You need to take this seriously. I'm taking it seriously, that's why I called you. The state troopers arrived an hour later, young, professional, stationed themselves outside with sight lines on all approaches. Marcus stayed inside, pulling out his laptop and going through David's old case files. Most of this is routine stuff, he muttered. Wills, property disputes, small-time criminal defense. But there's a gap here. 3 months in 2006 where he didn't take any new cases, just worked on one file. The Mitchell settlement, Aria guessed, has to be. But he was meticulous about documentation. If there was something unusual, he would have noted it. Unless noting it would have gotten him killed. Marcus looked up. You think he knew from the beginning that this was dangerous? I think he knew something was wrong, and I think he spent 5 years trying to figure out how to expose it without destroying his own life. Aria's voice went hard. He just ran out of time. They worked through the night, piecing together fragments. Ethan called his lawyer, had him pull every public record on the Mitchell family, found that the judge who kept blocking the subpoenas had received a substantial campaign donation from a shell company 3 weeks after Sarah took Aria back, found that the same shell company had paid David Chen a consulting fee of $200,000 the same month. Hush money, Marcus said. They paid my brother to keep quiet. About what, though? Ethan spread papers across the table. What's worth this much money and this many lives? The answer came at 3 a.m. when Aria found a news article from 2002. Small-town newspaper, barely a paragraph. Sarah Mitchell, 16, gives birth at County General. Baby girl, healthy. Father unlisted. That's me, she said. The day I was born. Ethan read over her shoulder, didn't see anything unusual. Standard birth announcement. Then Aria scrolled down to the comments section and there it was. An anonymous comment posted years later. Shame about the Mitchell girl. Wonder if anyone ever told that baby the truth about her real father. Real father, Ethan repeated. Sarah said the father was some guy who bailed. But what if that was the lie? Marcus was already typing, running searches. If the father was someone notable, someone with a reputation to protect, that would explain the payoff, the sealed records, the desperation to keep it hidden.
Arya's hands shook. But who? Who would care that much 24 years later? The subpoena came through at 8 a.m. Marcus's friend at the AG's office emailed the unsealed settlement documents, and the truth was right there in black and white.
And the family covered it up, Marcus said, voice tight with anger. Arranged the adoption through David to keep it quiet. Paid Sarah to disappear. And when she came back for her daughter, when she threatened to expose what happened, they paid her again to stay silent. But she didn't stay silent, Ethan said. She told David and Patricia, and eventually someone decided that was too dangerous. Hart. Marcus stood abruptly. It has to be Hart. He had the most to lose. If this came out, his career would be over. Criminal charges, civil suits, everything. So he killed them. Arya's voice was dead. He killed my mother and your brother and my aunt to protect his reputation. We need proof, something that ties him directly to the murders. The proof came from an unexpected source. One of the state troopers knocked on the door, handed Marcus a manila envelope. This was left on the porch. No note, no signature, just addressed to Detective Chen. Inside were photographs. Sarah's car the day it crashed, close-ups of the brake lines. David's car, same angles. And security camera footage from a parking garage showing a man in a baseball cap and gloves working under Sarah's vehicle 3 days before her death. The last photo was a clear shot of the man's face, Judge William Hart. Someone's been watching him, Marcus breathed, collecting evidence. Patricia, Arya said suddenly. She knew. That's why she died. Not a stroke. Hart killed her before she could give you this. But she'd already prepared it, set it up to be delivered if something happened to her. Marcus pulled out his phone. I'm calling this in, getting a warrant for Hart's arrest. It happened fast after that. State police descended on Hart's home, found evidence of financial payments to an unlicensed mechanic who'd done time for vehicular manslaughter. Found emails discussing handling the Mitchell problem and ensuring silence. Found a burner phone with texts to Patricia Chen the day she died. Hart was arrested at the courthouse mid-session, charged with 3 counts of murder, conspiracy, obstruction of justice. The news broke within hours, and the fallout was immediate. Calls for investigations into every case he'd presided over, demands for accountability. Arya's name kept out of it, protected by victim privacy laws, but the story was everywhere. Sarah Mitchell's death ruled a homicide. David Chen's case reopened. Patricia Chen's stroke reclassified as suspicious. And at the center of it all, a decades-old crime finally dragged into the light. Arya watched the news coverage from the cabin, Ethan beside her, neither quite believing it was over. She knew, Arya said quietly. My mother. She knew he'd eventually come for her. That's why she made me promise not to look for ghosts. She was trying to protect you. By lying to me for 20 years? By keeping you alive. Ethan took her hand. She made choices we might not agree with, but she made them out of love. Arya was quiet for a long moment. I wish I could tell her I understand, that I forgive her. Maybe she knows anyway. They drove back to the city the next day, picked up Lily from Jones. Lily threw herself at Arya with a force that nearly knocked her over. You kept your promise. You came back. I told you I'd try my hardest. Are you staying now? For real? Arya looked at Ethan over Lily's head. He nodded. Yeah, sweetie, I'm staying. The weeks that followed were strange. Learning how to be a family when none of them quite knew what that meant. Arya moved into an apartment 10 minutes away, came for dinner 3 times a week. Slowly built a relationship with Lily that was awkward and beautiful and nothing like the dreams she'd had. Joan surprised everyone by embracing Arya, seemed to understand that Claire would have wanted her sister found and protected and loved. Margaret Mitchell, lucid enough to understand what her brother had done, sent a letter apologizing for the role she'd played in burying the truth. Arya didn't respond, wasn't ready for that yet. Hart pled guilty to avoid trial, took a deal that gave him life without parole. The mechanic he'd hired turned state's evidence, filled in the gaps. And slowly, painfully, Arya started to piece together an identity built on truth instead of lies. I don't know who I am anymore, she told Ethan one night. They were on his porch, watching Lily chase fireflies in the yard. I'm not Sarah's daughter the way I thought. I'm not just Claire's sister. I'm the product of something violent and wrong, and I don't know how to make peace with that. You're Arya, he said simply. You're someone who survived something terrible and came out fighting. Someone who refused to stop looking for truth even when it was dangerous. Someone who loves my daughter and makes terrible jokes and burns every meal except breakfast food." She laughed despite herself. "I'm a mess, same. So am I. So is Lily. We're all just figuring it out as we go." Is that enough? I think it has to be. Because perfect doesn't exist, just people doing their best with broken pieces. Arya leaned against him, watched Lily spin in circles, arms outstretched. "She's happy." "Yeah. You are too." "Getting there." "Me too." She turned to look at him. "I love you, you know. I didn't mean to, but I do." "I know. I love you too. Even though I'm your dead wife's sister, and we have the most complicated origin story in history, because of all that. Because you walked into my life when I'd given up and reminded me what it feels like to want things." They kissed as fireflies blinked around them, and Lily shouted that she'd caught 3 in her jar. The moment was imperfect and real and exactly right. 6 months later, Ethan stood in a courtroom and officially adopted Arya as Lily's legal guardian. Not a parent, neither of them wanted that, but family. Someone who'd be there if anything happened to him, someone Lily could count on. A year after that, he proposed. Not with grand gestures or perfect speeches, just a quiet question on an ordinary Tuesday while they were making those terrible pancakes. "Marry me." Arya looked up from the burnt batter. "Are you serious?" "Completely. I know it's weird and complicated and people will talk, but I don't care. I want you in my life officially, forever." "That's a long time." "I'm counting on it." She said yes with flour on her hands and tears in her eyes, and they told Lily together. She was 8 now, old enough to understand that this wasn't replacing her mother. It was building something new from what remained. The wedding was small. Joan, Marcus Chen, a few close friends. They got married in the backyard of the White House with blue shutters, under the tire swing where Arya's memories had started. Lily served as flower girl and best woman rolled into one, took her job very seriously. During the vows, Ethan spoke about second chances and broken things made whole. Arya talked about finding family in unexpected places and learning that love doesn't replace, it adds. That you can honor the past while building a future. When the officiant pronounced them married, Lily cheered louder than anyone. They honeymooned out of the cabin where they'd hidden from danger, reclaimed it as a place of peace instead of fear. Lily came with them because neither could imagine leaving her behind. They spent a week hiking, fishing, telling stories around the fire. One night, Lily asked about Claire. "Do you think Mommy's happy that you and Arya got married?" Ethan looked at his wife, still strange to think of her that way, and found her watching him with Claire's eyes but her own expression. "I think she'd be thrilled," he said. "She always wanted you to have family, wanted us to be happy." "Do you miss her?" "Every day, but not the same way I used to. Now it's less like losing and more like remembering someone I loved." "That's good, right?" "Yeah, Bug, that's good." Arya pulled Lily close. "Your mom and my mom both made a lot of mistakes, but they also made sure we found each other. And I think that was the point." "What was?" "Love, family, the messy, complicated, imperfect kind that's real." Later, after Lily fell asleep between them, Ethan and Arya lay awake watching stars through the cabin window. "Do you think we'll ever feel normal?" Arya asked. "I don't know. Is normal what we want? Maybe not. Maybe this is better. Knowing how fragile everything is, how quickly it can change. Makes you appreciate what you have." "Exactly." She turned to face him. "I appreciate you, and Lily, and this weird, impossible life we've built. Same. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." They fell asleep like that, tangled together, Lily's small snores filling the silence. And for the first time in longer than either could remember, the future felt like something to look forward to instead of something to survive. Years would pass. Lily would grow up strong and fierce, carrying pieces of both the women who'd shaped her. She'd go to college, find her own path, always knowing she came from love, even when that love was complicated. Arya would build a career teaching art, discover she had her sister's gift for seeing beauty in broken things. Ethan would learn that moving forward didn't mean forgetting, just making room for new memories alongside old ones. They'd fight sometimes, because real families do. They'd struggle with anniversaries and triggers and the weight of shared trauma, but they'd also laugh until their stomachs hurt. Make traditions out of burnt pancakes and terrible jokes, build a life that honored what they'd lost while celebrating what they'd found. And on quiet nights, when the house was still and the three of them were together, they'd remember that family isn't about blood or perfection or getting it right the first time. It's about showing up, choosing each other, building something real from whatever pieces you're given. It's about second chances and brave choices and the stubborn, reckless hope that broken things can still become beautiful. And for Ethan Cole, Aria Lane Cole, and Lily Cole, that was more than enough. It was everything.